episode 7, The Beyond. And this one was set. And it's the icon back with another Bridgerton review for you. And before we get started, hit that notification bell, like and or subscribe. Again, check out my second YouTube channel dedicated strictly to fashion shows called Bright Eyes Media for all your fashion fun and all your crazy desires and everything. And we got some stuff coming up in the pipeline this summer. I'll be attending some more shows, and I can't wait to bring that to all of you. Now, so John gone. We lost John. I have thoughts on John's passing, but I'll get to that more in the end. So the episode it actually starts with his funeral. And, everybody's there, obviously, and they're all broken up. Anthony and Kate, they left, and they sent flowers because they couldn't be there in person. So because of that, this is the Benedict season, and he was like, because my brother can't be here, he was like, I will speak on his behalf. And, he ends up basically just giving a speech about John. After the speech is over, they're at the reception, the funeral reception, and John's cousin, she's not very happy with the reception because she's just like, oh, this is very bland. She's like, it's very drab, and everybody, is just in mourning. She said back in Scotland, she was like, we celebrate one's death. She said we celebrate their life. We don't mourn their death. And then, Francesca's like, this is how it's done properly and everything. So they're kind of like going back and forth. The problem with Francesca, though, she's freaking out because, the thing, obviously she's hurt and she's destroyed on the inside, but she's trying to hold it together. She's talking about biscuits, making sure everybody's seated properly and everything. At one point, Sophie had to bring her upstairs just to calm her down. They brought her back downstairs. And then when John's cousin even said, he was like, we should throw another party to celebrate his life. And then she was like, John would want us to celebrate him and John wouldn't want us to cry. And then she was like, John doesn't want anything because he's gone. And I was like, God damn. She's like, the dead want nothing. And, then the two of them got mad and, they went their separate ways. So, then there was the moment where Violet, Lady Bridgerton, she tried to talk to Francesca, and then she was like, when your father died, I felt, the same pain. She was like, I couldn't bear to go into the bedroom, for months and everything. And then Francesca got mad. She was like, we're not the same, Mama. And then she was like, she's like, you're going to try to sympathize with me saying that we're both the same because we both lost our husbands. But she was like, you gave father 8 children, 8 pieces of you exist of father in this world. She's like, I've given him nothing. She's like, I've given John nothing. She's like, I cannot do my wifely duties and bear his children. And I was just like, God damn. Talk about beating yourself up, I feel bad for Francesca. She was like, we're not the same, Mama. And then she was like, I couldn't even do my she's like, I had one job and I couldn't do it, and then, she embraced her mom, and the cousin was on the other side. She heard everything, and, the two of them, embraced it shit. So it was quite sad. Poor Hyatt, she, because since the beginning, she's been into the balls and the gowns, and I can't wait to be into society. But she was just like, after John's death, and then after, we lost Dad, and then she even said the Featherin. She said the Featherin's husband died. She was like, I give up on all this crap. She was like, what's the point of being married, and what's the point of finding love when they're just going to die on you? And I was like, Jesus Christ, this is this is getting very depressing. It was so bad. Eloise was the voice of reason of all people, and then she had to talk her sister off the ledge or whatever. And then, after that, then obviously, because see, my concern, I feel like John's demise should have happened in the finale. And, it should have given us something to think about while we wait for season 5 to come out. But instead, they pulled the trigger at the end of episode 6, and and then they made the whole episode 7 pretty much about his demise. So the thing about it is, my concern was, because John's death is a very important thing, I didn't want the topic of conversation to shift away from Benedict and Sophie and move over, now to John and Francesca. That's why I was like, yeah, I should have did this in the season finale. But it turned out to be a good thing, because in dealing with the whole situation with John, with John's passing, it actually forced Benedict, to be more like, I gotta marry this girl, So there was a moment where He was because remember Sophie, she took a position working back at the Penwood house where she grew up, and she was supposed to leave, but she stuck around a little bit longer so she could be there for the family and help them with the funeral. She went outside and saw Benedict when he was outside, and she was like, "Why are you outside in the cold?" He was like, "Because I want to feel something other than despair." Like the delivery on this shit is crazy. Like I love it, But she was just like, "I'm going to be going soon," and then he was just like, "Yes." But she was like, "I can stay here with you a little bit longer." And he was like, "No." He's like, "Because my sister is in shambles and the whole family needs me to be strong." And he said, "If you're with me," he's like, "if you're by my side, I will fall to pieces. So please go." He was like, "Goodbye, Sophie. We will never see each other again." And then she walked away. So then later on, he's in his study. He's upset. His mom comes in to talk to him, and then he was just like, "Oh," he was like, "Sophie's gone," and he was like, "I'll never see her again." And then she was like, "Jesus," she was like, "Benedict, do you love her?" Because she thought, like, the mom thought it was just like some silly fling. He's like, "Oh, he's just infatuated with the girl." She didn't realize that he actually like fell in love with her. And she was like, "Oh my God, Benedict." He's like, "You love this girl, but she's of a lower class." And he was like, "Yes, mother." He was like, "But you have your wish." He was like, "I will not marry the maid." He was like, "This is what you would have done if father was lower class. You would have left him to die." He was like, "But I cannot do it." And then they sat down. They had a whole conversation. She said, "Look," she was like, "if you love this girl and you want to marry her," she was like, "go ahead and marry her." She's like, "But the problem is marrying a girl who's of a lower class, that shit comes with a price." She was like, "If you marry her, we're basically going to disown you." Like, that's basically what she said. She was like, "We may write from time to time. We may go see each other like once a year, but," she was like, "you will be cast out of society, never to return. And it'll just be you and Sophie in the country forever and ever." And because she was like, "If word gets out that you married a maid," she was like, "that could damage our entire family." So she was like, "Look, if she's like, she's like, I always tell my kids, like, go for love." She's like, "If you love this girl, go get her. But at the same time, understand the consequences that come along with you marrying the maid." So, and then Violet, she went to Sophie and she was like, "If there's something about your past, that you could tell us, she's like, please tell us before it's too late." And she was like, "No, I'm a maid and I'm not suitable for your child." And I'm just like, for the love of God. Now, see, my whole thing is, I felt like she should have said something, because if she would have said, like, "I'm the daughter of royalty," then that would have changed things. Apparently, they're trying to say that even if she is the daughter of a nobleman, even if she is the daughter of royalty, the fact that her mom was a maid tainted. Like, I was under the impression that even if a royal had, relations with a peasant, the child is of royalty because you have royal blood coursing through your veins. With them, it's the opposite. They're like, "That's not going to save your ass. You're still poor." So I guess her telling them that, "Yes, I'm the daughter, of a nobleman," that wouldn't have helped, because they were just like, "So what? That means the bloodline has been tainted and you're a disgrace, on the family tree." Like, that's how they treat it, And listen, Benedict was like crushed about that, because he was like, "We could never be," but he was thinking about it. The thing with Sophie, though, like, she ended up, like, when she was about to take the job at Penwood House, one of her boys, her people, they told her, they was like, "Look, the job has already been filled." They said, "Because you stayed on a little bit longer to help out the Bridgerton household," they ended up filling the position, and they had to fill that position very quickly. So they was like, basically, "You asked out and ain't no job." So she didn't know what to do. But then the other guy was like, "Oh," he said, "but there's another job I know about. It's a family that needs somebody to help them move." And she was like, "Oh, I can do that." He was like, "But they're moving to the Americans, to the Americas, to America. They moving to America." And then they said that if you take the job, you're going to have to move to America. So she took the job. She took the job. She agreed to take the job. There was a moment where she was talking to Francesca, and then she was talking to Francesca about when her father died, and then, she was like, "You have to keep your father's memories close and try to be more like him, just like I try to be like my father." And then she said, "But I wear a necklace to honor my mother." But then she's like, "Oh shit, I dropped it," because she left it in Benedict's room when they did the deed. Now, wicked stepmama Cho, she's still looking for Sophie, and she's still trying to bring her to justice, because she's still mad about them damn shoe clips. So Posey, because Posey's not the brightest bulb like in the room. We can all agree to that. She manipulated Posey into telling her where Sophie, what was going on with Sophie, because she was just like, "Oh, I have to find Sophie, and then I will lock her up into prison." But she was like, "Mama," she was like, "You don't have to worry about," because she told her, she was like, she's like, "Sophie, like, she's a dark stain on our family," and she's like, "We must remove her, otherwise our family can never be back into high society again." And then she was like, "Mama, you don't have to worry about Sophie because she's moving to the Americans," because at one point, Posey, she snuck out the house, she went across straight to the Bridgerton house, and she told, like, Sophie, she's like, "I miss you." She's like, "I'm sorry that everything that happened." And then that's when she told her, she was like, "Well, don't worry, I'm moving to the Americans." So So she spilled the beans on Cho, and then Cho was like, I got this bitch now. So now we about to set the trap. So while Francesca was actually like going off and on about how she couldn't do her wifely duties, come to find out she actually is pregnant. So the people that were in charge of John's will, they basically wanted to do a checkup on her just so they could make sure that she is pregnant and that she wasn't lying or telling, like basically fibbing. Because if she does have a child, and if it is a son, then that child now becomes the heir to the fortune. Francesca didn't want to do it because obviously she was in grieving, over the situation with her husband. And then when the guy was just like, oh, but he was like, but that's what society needs. And then that's when Benedict got mad. He was like, I don't give a damn about society and what they claim that they desire from us. He was like, we're good, honorable people, and you will not subject my sister to this buffoonery. But then he was like, but if we don't, then she gets nothing. So they ended up doing it. I think they ended up doing the checkup. She got the checkup. And then unfortunately for this poor girl, I guess there was a complication with it and she lost the baby. I guess she had a miscarriage. So now between her husband dying and the fact that she actually did get pregnant but then lost the baby, now she's feeling like complete shit. And that's why she was with her mom. She was like, I can't do my wifely duties. I had one job and I blew it. And I just feel bad for poor Francesca. And then this is some funny ass shit because first with her, it was about reaching the pinnacle, which is what they call having an orgasm. Now because she found out she is with child, so they were like, how do you know you were with child? And she was like, because my courses haven't arrived. And when she said, I was like, what the fuck is she talking about? I was like, her courses? Like, what do you mean course? I was like, you mean your period? So in America, we call it your cycle or your period. In jolly old England, when it's that time of the month, they say your courses haven't arrived. I swear to God, that shit was funny. Francesca ended up having a celebration party for John's demise. And they had the celebration party. Everybody told stories about him. They told stories about, how they affected their lives. And they even said, she was, because Sophie even said at one point, she said that when a person dies, every single person that knows them knows a different version of them because like they're different people to, depending on who those people are. So everybody was like celebrating John's death, telling their stories and everything. And then Benedict got so overwhelmed by this. He was just like, I can't take it anymore. And then he was leaving. And then Violet was like, where are you going? He was like, I'm going to do what I should have done all along. And then she was like, well, I left a present for you in your bedroom, which was basically her grandmother's, engagement ring. So he goes back to the house. He goes into his room. He takes the engagement ring. And then he looks down and notices that Sophie dropped her necklace on the floor. While that's happening, Sophie was packing up her things and she was leaving Bridgerton house to head off to the Americans. Benedict then ran into her room, didn't see her, saw that she had cleared out all her shit. But then when he looked down, the glove that she was wearing at the masquerade ball, she left the glove at Bridgerton house. And I feel like she did that on purpose because she knew if she left that glove, there was a chance that Benedict was going to figure it out. But then she figured, well, by then I'll be in America, so it's not going to matter. And as soon as he saw the necklace, because the thing with the necklace was, he drew, when he was trying to find the girl in the mask, he drew a picture of everything except her face, and he also drew the necklace. And I'm like, how the hell did that boy remember how that necklace looked? Benedict has one hell of a memory. So he drew the necklace, and then when he saw the necklace on the floor, then he was like, oh shit, this is the same necklace that, because I'm like, I don't know why he didn't put two and two together then, but maybe because they was about to do it, so he wasn't thinking about it. But, he put two and two together. He was like, oh shit. And then when he saw the glove, he was like, damn, she's the girl from the party. When Sophie left the house, that's when Cho pulled up on her, and then she was like, officer, arrest this woman because she stole from me and she impersonated a noble lady. And then they just locked her up without trying to ask any questions or figure out if that was even true or not. They put her in the slammer, and then she was like, there's been a terrible mistake. And they was like, the little mistake is that your filth is on our streets. And then they threw her in the back of the paddy wagon, and then they took her off the prison. They done locked this girl up. And then as soon as they threw her ass in jail, Benedict came running out the house like it was Back to the Future Part 2. And then Sophie was gone, and he was like, shit. That was how the episode ended, and thank you for tuning in. Some notable things that we missed in the episode. That fine ass Alice, she's still working with the queen, and like the queen was basically just trying to figure out, like what to do with her life. And then she was just like, she's like, everything is just so depressing. And then she was like, Mrs. Alice, she was like, hand me my dog. And then she just gave her the dog, and Alice is looking like, I don't know what the fuck. Alice is like, I don't know what I'm actually supposed to be doing besides holding these damn dogs. This is like funny to me. Violet told Marcus that they should put a hold on announcing that they're together or their wedding or whatever, They said, well, let's put a pin on that because my daughter's going through all this shit. I said, but the situation with John seems to be resolved a little bit. Like Francesca's feeling better, and it says Sophie locked up. Benedict's like running around town trying to find her. So here we go. So share your questions. Oh yeah, and Hyatt, like she's still like fuck all this shit. So she's like fuck my coming out party. She's like I'm not going. But share your questions, comments, and concerns down below. What do you think about episode 7 of Bridgerton? Like, were you sad about John's demise? Like, how did it make you feel? Do you think they should have saved that for the season finale, or do you think it was fine for them to place it where they placed it? They did have a purpose for it because, again, his demise did force Benedict to get off his ass. But I said, but share your questions, comments, and concerns, and let's continue to talk about it. Like I said, whether you agree with me or not, just leave a comment. And I said, let's get the conversation going for some Bridgerton because we've got one more episode to go in the land of London. Check me out all over social media, on X, on Instagram, on Twitter, and TikTok, where you can leave those questions, comments, and concerns. Again, check out Bright Eyes Media for all your fashion desires, and I'll see you as we conclude some Bridgerton here on Netflix and Bright Eyes Entertainment. So that was it, guys. So thanks for tuning in. So until next time, well, God save, Sophie, because she locked up now. Until then, we're out this bitch.